we're gonna do any major business tonight anyways. Like I say, it's, I think, a relatively quick
Computing.
meeting and kind of setting up for the future.
Okay.
So, our longest time is getting 4 sets of minutes approved. That's gonna take the better part of the meeting, I think, so. If we're all set, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:30. We have 2 commissioners not here today, but we do have a quorum. That's me, yes. So I assume we can proceed.
Hold on, no, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Slowing things down.
sorry, you take your time. You're all set?
All set.
All right, the meeting is officially called to order at 6:30. Item number 1, approval of the agenda. Any adjustments, corrections, any problems with that? If
Hey,
not,
do we have other business on there? I didn't print a copy, sorry.
yes,
Okay.
unfinished.
Thank
Thought I
you.
did. New business, other, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, down Roman numeral 7. Approval of minutes, and hopefully people have had a chance to review these. There are 4 of them because of the variety of things, public hearings, special meetings, et cetera. We've gotten off track, and the goal is to get all of them approved tonight. So we'll get started with it. Hey, Matt,
I guess we're gonna do them one at a time, right?
that, unless you want a blanket motion, which I
No.
doubt would work, so, yeah, one at a time.
Yeah, I think we should also, because not everybody can vote on, some people have to abstain
Absolutely.
from some.
Yep. And so we'll start with Tuesday, December 11th meeting and comments. Lisa?
Yeah, I just have a comment, towards the end. The penultimate paragraph, Chuck said the town plan. I don't think Chuck said it is not a big deal to update the town plan every year. Even Chuck is an optimistic person, probably did not say that.
Yeah, Chuck's feeling regret right now.
So I think Chuck probably said it's
Every 2
not a big
years.
deal to update parts,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
parts of the town plan every year or every 2 years.
Thank you for saving me from myself.
You're welcome. That's all I have on that one.
Other adjustments, corrections? If not, entertain a motion to accept December 11th as slightly amended.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thanks,
All in
Chuck.
favor?
Aye.
Against? That's 1. Next one, Tuesday, January 8th, regular meeting, if you've got a copy of those. Comments, questions, changes on them? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second? No second?
I'm computing whether which ones I read, sorry.
Second.
We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oop, time out, yep. Go ahead.
Abstain.
1 abstention?
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Okay, and all opposed?
Valerie abstains too.
Okey dokey, see,
Well,
that's why I was
things-
sitting here computing, I was like, which one
No,
did I
and-
miss?
And also, I could not find these on the town website.
I could not find those on the town website either. I had to print those from my,
Yeah,
directly from my folder.
that's exactly what I
All
did.
right, let me check. They should be on the town website.
Well, if you can find them, they'll be, well, maybe they slipped into some weird location, but I.
Boy, I went up and down and could not find them though.
I just accessed it.
That's why I don't
Email.
look. I was like,
All right, I'll look for that later, but if they're not there, then I'll make sure that.
Which set of minutes did not print out correctly? What date were those?
The 15th,
It was the 15th.
yes. And it happened twice, so it was, I mean, 2 different occasions. Like the same one.
Dave, the 15th is the minutes you did?
Yes. And so you
I don't have
know,
a copy of them.
oh, you don't?
I probably have it on email.
Again, I got them off the town website today to make sure they were there. So,
You don't have them there, Chuck, because there's quite a few little thingies.
All right, okay.
so we're now going to review the minutes from the town public hearing. That was Tuesday, January 15th, and again, a slightly different format because I took the minutes on this one. Lisa, you got some comments?
Yeah,
on this
but
one?
I'm waiting
Oh, okay.
for,
Chuck, to get him
for
called
Chuck
out.
to find them so you can make the edits. Now those,
The 31st, yeah.
We're not there yet. This is the town.
would those be in the
We've got-
Dropbox, Dave?
Dave
I got them
said
off the
Dave's
town,
on
I got them off the
Town
town
website.
website today. We'll
Yeah.
be able to put some.
They're posted to the town website.
They might have been also emailed to us.
Yes, they were on the 17th.
Twice they are, actually.
Yeah.
You found them?
Yes. But only by email.
Or in this PDF.
Yeah. Chuck, you all set, or you need a couple minutes, or?
Downloading the PDF file, I can't find the Word file. Okay, ready.
Okay, so, first thing, under attendance, the non-resident is Andy Snelling.
Okay.
Then a whole bunch of little things. Under 4, public input, numeral 1, Cynthia Gibbs, there's like a quotation mark there that doesn't belong at Gibbs.
Oh, at the end of S.
Yeah. Then I think it should be capital budget and not capital budget.
Ready?
And that's twice in that paragraph.
I like being consistent.
Then the next one, Suzanne doesn't go by Sue. She's
Oh.
Suzanne with a Z.
2 N's and an E.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the next one, Kearns, is Kearns.
Yes. Thank you.
Then I would find it appropriate to add, under the comments and questions from Grafton residents, it says there were multiple comments and questions from the audience. I would find it appropriate to add that many comments were positive and complimentary of the work of the planning commission, because
I
those
think
were,
that's a good idea.
we heard comments that were positive and complimentary.
Yeah.
So I think we should say that.
Including from somebody who has a degree in planning.
Including the degree in planning, yeah.
Well, God knows we earned it.
So many comments were positive and complimentary of the work of the PC.
Thank you.
Which Dave doesn't mean you didn't put in good comments. It's just, I think Lisa's got a point, which is we want to emphasize that the majority of
it's an
people
accurate
thought this.
statement.
Yeah.
Then, under the third point, okay, so I looked up the plural of appendix, because I'm a language nerd.
Is it a C?
So,
Yes.
It's either
so,
or.
so it can be in, when it refers to an appendix in a document, it can be a C or an X. When it refers to the body in your, piece in your body that sometimes gives you trouble and has to be removed, it has to be an X. So in this case, the X is not incorrect, but the more common one that most dictionaries prefer is a C.
I'm pretty sure I changed it to a C, if I remember right.
Yeah.
All right.
And then on the next one, on the first line, there's the word windmills. That's not a technical term. It should be wind facilities.
Would turbines work?
Well, I think facilities is the technical.
Okay.
Uh, And then in the same paragraph, there is again appendices, so if you change the other ones to a C,
I'll be consistent.
yeah. Thank you. And are you ready for?
Keep it coming.
Okay, and then under C, comments from non-residents, Township Planning Commission member Andy Snelling.
Oh,
Wanted to thank. And then there's a small correction in that paragraph. He's been following the board's work. Maybe
apostrophe.
apostrophe, board apostrophe, or maybe technically commission, but it doesn't matter.
Roman numeral 5, special meeting, should that be capitalized?
Maybe.
Other corrections?
Nope.
That's it. Motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
So moved.
And I'll second,
There
whatever.
we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 3 out of 4 done. The last one was our special meeting, January 31st. Comments, questions, changes?
Now, this is the first time I got to add a map in the minutes. That was very exciting.
That's impressive.
And there was an individual that attended, and I forgot who it was.
Was it Carol and Charlie?
On the map, they were here.
No, at the last meeting, January 31st.
Uh,
Sam, Christine, Ron, Suzanne.
I think it was Carol and Charlie sat behind me.
Can you spell Carol's last name?
It's
L-I-N-D.
Charlie Hooker and Carol. And
L-I-N-D.
Thank you.
And village center designation, capitalized center, C, the C and the D, center designation.
Got it.
And then there's a rather major one. This is great. Towards the end, motion for the planning commission to forward the draft 2019 to 2026
Like
town plan.
16, huh?
That's funny.
The paragraph above, while you're right there, Matt points out, Matt discussed his definition rather than this definition, because he brought a definition.
That's right.
As a footnote to that, Matt, as you read the subdivision work, no, the flood work, as well as in state statute, there's a bunch of legal definitions, and one of them, they want to change it actually, which I found interesting. So. Other changes?
That's all I have.
Is page 2 blank?
Page 2, how much you guys were?
It's blank. Yeah, you probably have a page break or something because the map come in there.
That's the way
Oh.
it comes up on
Oh, okay.
online.
I see.
In
No, my
Dropbox,
page
it
2
doesn't.
is full, so that must be the
Okay.
way the different
It's all
software reads.
paging, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, flows from 1 to 2.
Just
It shows the map.
You know, like he says, I got 4 pages, 2 of which is blank. Motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
We have a first and a second.
Second?
There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed as amended, so that takes care of all of Roman numeral 2. Roman numeral 3, public comment. Welcome again as always. I think I'll put down, there's an issue with the printing under public comment, if we could do that. Chuck? That for some reason, the document from the town website did not print properly.
Okay, check documents to make sure they're printing properly.
Well, it's inconsistent because mine printed properly today from the same website, so something, I'm curious about it, and I'll talk to Bill, just 'cause I'm very curious about it. Other public comment? Moving along, update, Windham Regional Commission. Eric and Lisa, anything to add, comments?
My committee meetings at least have been postponed till the next month, no business.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
not much going on.
Not much going on. There was one Natural Resources Committee meeting that I missed because of illness. One of the things that's being discussed in the Natural Resources Committee now is that the legislature is looking into, as we all know, I think, into revising Act 250. So the committee is asked to come up with comments and recommendations.
Didn't even realize they were doing that.
Yeah, that is ongoing now.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a major effort to reform, update, revise, improve Act 250.
Not a bad thing to look at, I guess, it's been around for
And,
30 years.
yeah, nothing else. Everything else has been answered.
Development Review Board, Chris and/or Eric, anything to add, to discuss?
No, we were going to make a motion to approve appointment of Bill Kearns as Assistant Administrative Officer, so that when Chuck is not available during the week and people come through the door, there is someone that can officially facilitate their requests and advise them as appropriate.
Would now be a good time to put that in and discuss that? I have multiple questions about it, and it's, first of all, I want to start by separating out. One, we discussed the position, not the person. Because I read the rules and I read a variety of other things. There's nothing in there that describes this position. So if we're going to create this, A, do we have the right to, or is that a select board job? And B, how does it lay out? This guy gets paid. Is this position paid? If so, how much? What's the term? Those kinds of details I'd like to kind of figure out. Or is it just ongoing?
And what are the responsibilities?
Yeah,
Authorities.
specifically responsibilities, authority, that kind of thing. And I don't know how to do that.
Okay, I can talk with the select board. With
You guys want to make sure it's
Joe,
done right.
See
To me, it
what
should be
their
2 steps.
guidance
Step
is.
1, make sure the position is real, and then appoint Bill to the position once it exists, if that makes sense. And I just, can we?
It would be filling in for Chuck basically when he's not here. He would assume his
The legal
duties.
term would be acting zoning administrator. The planning commission may nominate one or more persons to serve as acting ZA for appointment by the legislative body, being the select board. The acting ZA has the same duties and responsibilities as the regular ZA and serves in the absence of the regular ZA.
And where are you reading that, state statute? Or?
That's right.
Okay.
That's, chapter 117, 448B.
Okay. What I was reading is like our zoning plan, our zoning regulations and stuff specifically describe your role and what you do in that role, but it didn't have this other role in there. I don't know if it's supposed to be another
The
zoning
sticking
regulations.
point, which I don't have answers for, Dave, to follow up on your questions, is this provision that says if an acting ZA is appointed, the authority of that ZA, it has to be clear policies regarding the authority of the ZA in relation to the acting ZA must be established. So my sense of this language, which sounds wonky to me, is that we're gonna nominate Bill Kearns, but have clear language saying this is his role as acting. So you can say whatever you want. We could be equals, the 2 administrators are equal at all times. It could be only in the, extended absence of the zoning administrator. But some clear articulation of what you want. And it's, it really depending on you, Chris, to articulate what you think the DRB needs. But there is a provision in that, those rules that say you have to provide some clear sort of policy.
So how do we proceed? What's the next step? I have no problem moving forward,
I would think if there's agreement, we would nominate Bill Kearns for select board appointment as,
Acting zoning administrator.
So wait, is that the
even
planning
though-
commission doing that? Sorry, Chris, or the DRB?
no, it has to come from the planning commission, is my understanding, in accordance with BSA 11744B. The planning,
It's, yeah. No logic, don't think.
Well, can I suggest that we just
Sure.
make a motion to create the position and then worry about who is gonna fill the position, but create a position and describe it better?
or we
No,
could
you're
just,
nominating one or more persons to serve as an acting ZA.
But
Since it's in
not-
statute, we don't have to create the position, is what you're saying, it's automatic, right? It's,
That's right.
I just look at the town plan, or the annual town report, that's not a position listed, it just seems odd that we can just create that, but I guess if it's in there.
You don't have to do this, you know, and again, this is, I can get in trouble when I try to interpret law as if I'm a lawyer. The state has enabled you to do this. That doesn't mean you
Right.
must do this.
Good point.
the motivation, though, is so that when town offices are open during business hours, during regular work week, and someone walks through the door requesting a subdivision application or seeking guidance or wanting to file, there is someone there that can provide service to them in a semi-official capacity.
And you
And
can do it
that's-
without this position kind of thing?
You can, Kim or Bill can do that without the title.
Uh-huh.
That would be the-
Only I can look at an application currently. And I had no opinion on this one way or the other, but only I can deem an application complete and ready to go before the DRB. If I don't feel it's complete, then I'm the only one right now that has the authority to kick it back. If you had an acting ZA, potentially you're in a position where, and there's no problem with this because Bill and I go back a ways, I enjoy working with him. He has the same authority to determine the application's complete and to sign off on it. Right now, he can collect this stuff, he can give advice, but he cannot say this application is complete and he cannot move forward with putting it on the DRB agenda. As an acting administrator, you could do that.
How does somebody that wants to get on the DRB agenda communicate and get through you now? Is it a hindrance or a stumble for residents to get things done because you're not here every day, or?
Usually what happens, somebody walks in the offices, they either talk to Kim or Bill. Historically, it's been different, you know, depending on who's in that
Which door you
position.
walk in is kind of who
You know, and then I get an email, or Bill's case, I usually get a phone call, and he says, this is what's happening. Half the time I'm aware of, prior to receiving an application, warned that this is coming down the pike. So,
I feel like that's just gonna confuse things, having two people who can do this. In a small town, I don't see the necessity for two, do you?
I'm concerned about the duplication of authorities.
Yeah, me too.
And that's why, if we were to go through with this, I'd want that relationship spelled out very carefully before we were to forward anything to the select board about it.
Do you feel like you need an assistant here?
no, that was my first thought, but if Bill sees things that I'm not seeing, then I would defer to him.
I just feel like there's something to be said for certain pathways, for certain processes, and I don't see that we're gonna gain anything by adding him in right this minute. I'm more comfortable with somebody who has been doing this for a long time, being the person who's streamlining it, and them getting the stuff to you, myself.
Now, on the other hand, if Bill needs additional compensation for basically out-of-hours help to people doing what Chuck would normally do, I would see encouraging the select board to fund that, so he's not being unfairly burdened. But I don't see the necessity for the authority to basically sign off on the applications.
Yeah.
In Rockingham, and it was pushed back on me, I have an assistant that can handle requests, help out with applications and do everything. I brought up the idea, what about making that person acting zoning administrator? And it was the same issue. The board felt that it would create too much of a confusion to have two cooks in the kitchen. That it's fine that Joni provides the services that she does, she's excellent at it, but in the end, there's just gonna be one person signing off on the applications.
Matt, what do you say?
No, I agree that, with Eric's thought and Val's.
Chris, you started this. Anything you want to add or say?
No,
Okay. You think it should happen still, or what do you think? Are you kind of on the fence, or where's your head at with this?
my understanding was, it wasn't a matter of extra hours or pay being involved, it was just a matter of pure customer service. When someone walks through the door, there's someone there to facilitate their requests.
Which it sounds like there still is, it's just that he would make the final determination, and
Yeah, and I don't think it was necessarily a request for the same authority that he has, but just to be able to facilitate any DRB business in the absence of the administrative officer.
And without the
But-
title, he can do everything but put his signature on the bottom of these documents. Is that accurate? Which is to provide the documents, to answer questions, again.
To be the final authority signing off on this.
Chuck, do you see a need?
Bill and I go back a long way. I enjoy working with him
Well,
at any
yeah.
capacity. So I don't see a downside or an upside to either choice.
See,
And he's old guard, so he teaches me often how to do this.
And this has nothing to do with personalities or anything else.
Yes.
Individuals, yeah.
I'm a huge believer in single point of authority. One choke point when it comes to authority and responsibility. When you got multiple people, I just find it does get ugly. So I'm kind of not thrilled with giving that authority to anybody personally.
Yeah, this is the first of, 4 administrators that we've had that I would feel comfortable having, an acting zoning administrator. The other 3 administrators did not have a skill set whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you may go back to that
Yeah.
model, in the future.
or we can just leave it the way it is.
Now, if we don't nominate anybody, can
We
the
don't
select
have
board?
You don't have to take it up.
Okay, if we don't nominate
But it
somebody,
has to come from the planning commission if it
Yeah.
is.
if it does not come from the planning commission, can the select board still do the appointment?
That I'm unclear on.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I guess if I'm not hearing a motion, I'd be glad to continue discussion with the select board, and if they have a position that says, boy, this is something we really want to do, then we can continue discussion, but if nobody's gonna make a motion, I will move on. Silence. Anything else from DRB?
No, we have completed one subdivision.
And you're the chair? to be-
I am.
Okay, all right.
We have a great DRB.
Do you?
They are very, Eric Swan, Chris, these folks are very engaged. This was I think in the end, this was a very good call.
Good, okay,
Yeah.
good. If there is nothing else, I'm gonna move on to Roman numeral 5. What kind of number is this? Number 2 comes after 5? Yeah. I have no correspondence or communication, so I'm gonna go by that, and go on to what should be Roman numeral 6. And Lisa, I'll turn it over to you, Village Center designation.
So, we may be able to have a better discussion on that in a moment. I just realized that I don't have my file on the matter, which I know I put in my bag, and it's not in Sam's truck, and he just went and checked, and so it must have somehow slipped. So he's just gone to look for it. But in the meantime,
We have a meeting in 2.5 weeks, so it's not.
yeah, and he'll be back in 20 minutes. So, but what I can tell you without my file and the map, which I really wanted to show you, as requested at the last meeting by the commissioners, I went back to Jeff Nugent at the WRC with the request to redraw a map with the additions that were requested as per the last meeting. And Jeff did that, and that's the map that we're looking for.
What was his reaction?
Now, and his reaction was also, and I printed out a copy of his email to me on that matter. His reaction was, yes, I can draw you a new map, but this is very unrealistic. This is not in the sense of, this is not what the village center designation is all about, because it's all about protecting the village clusters, the centers that have a kind of a pedestrian quality, the walkable quality, and the connectedness. And so now we were adding buildings and facilities that were at quite a distance and by no means considered normal pedestrian distance, and with large swaths of undeveloped land in between. And he is giving us the warning that, as we have discussed, of course, we want to run the draft boundary map by the office of Richard Omori before we officially submit the application. But he's also saying, and Richard for sure will say this is not going to fly. But he's also basically hinting that we're going to waste our time by submitting an unrealistic application, and that will not only be tweaked a little bit, or we will not just be asked to tweak it a little bit, but they may send the whole thing back to us.
Go back to the drawing board and start again.
So that was the comment, that probably not a well thought through attempt to draw the boundary of the village center.
Good luck, Charlie Brown.
What's that?
Good luck, Charlie Brown. That's what he said.
Val's got a question over here.
Yeah.
So, but do they have to talk with us before they reject it and understand our thinking?
Well, they will reject it and send it back to us.
That's not the same thing, though. What I'm asking is,
Well, we'll
before they reject it, will they have a discussion with us about what our rationale is?
Like a hearing kind of mentality.
Yes.
Let's sit and talk.
Because I think we all had very good reasons to want to include that, and it may not be developed now, but it could be in 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, I don't think that flies. I think what flies is what is on the map now.
Existing.
So,
It'd be interesting.
What is
Yeah.
our role?
yeah, so.
Yes, right.
So
Otherwise,
any
why bother?
sort of hypothetical future buildings, facilities, developments that do not exist even in some kind of a plan form today are not of any interest.
And there's
And-
nothing in the planning in that village
No.
area that I'm
But
talking
this is despite the fact that we lack the infrastructure of other towns as far as water, wastewater.
That's
Good
that sort of, I don't understand the relevance of that comment.
Because we can't develop a whole lot more in the village. For example, the store can't even rent the apartment above it because they're so limited
Right.
with wastewater. I mean, there's not room for more development in the current village center because everyone's grandfathered in within 100 meters of, is it yards or feet even?
Yeah, the measures are in feet, not meters.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all,
Yeah.
wells and septic are within 100 feet of each other. Throughout the village, there's not room for
Yeah.
more intense development there based on our current infrastructure.
Right, but that's sort of a different way of looking at things. The village center designation has to do with what's there now and what's the usage and possible usage of the facilities and buildings that are there now. That's what they're looking at.
Although I don't expect any development in the next 10 years, once this center designation is designed and approved, how hard is it to amend it in the future if there are changes?
It will have to be renewed every 8 years.
Okay.
Just the same as a town plan has to be renewed. So yes, absolutely. If you want to keep it valid, it will have to be renewed. And at that point, of course, if something has changed, then you go by those changes.
So what is your recommendation? Do we back up a little bit and say, we know this isn't gonna be approved because it's so outlandish, they're just gonna
Yeah.
throw it back in
Yeah.
our face? We ought to scale it back, what do you think?
Yeah, because I've been looking at, and I've been spending a little bit more time on this. I've been looking at what the board has done with other applications and how they have scaled them back, and other maps that have looked, to me, fairly compact, and, not like there's a big swath here and then a wing here, and they have still scaled them back, saying that this is not compact enough, this does not correspond to a compact village cluster the way it's intended. So I would suggest, we thank Jeff very much for the new map that he created, but also for his advice and comment. And I would also suggest to everyone on the commission maybe to review the criteria, because there's very definite set of criteria for the village center designation. And I think by looking at those criteria, that helps answer the question, what is eligible and what is relevant and what is possibly not relevant or eligible. So
you have the first map you brought still?
yeah, sure.
And now you got a new map that he's created?
Yes.
Okay.
And even the original map that he created is probably not going to be approved, because that, I believe, included the cheese factory.
Mhm.
I think it did.
Would it be?
Yeah. Now, and in Jeff's comments, I think he said he could see that little extension that we were asking for, like up Route 35, because that was kind of
Couple more houses.
coherent with the village map. And then also, I think the Kidder Hill Bridge, I forget now what he exactly said about the Kidder Hill Bridge. But then the Wilson Lawrence, Jamie Gregory area that's
We do
not,
that.
that's not
Yeah, that's a
realistic.
stretch for sure.
Yeah, well, that's what you all were asking for, so.
Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and I still stand by it myself, but I recognize
Would
that.
an appropriate goal for the next meeting, which is only 2.5 weeks away, is for all of us to do our homework and reread the criterion for village
Yeah.
designation, you to bring any maps you have, and can we vote on a map at the next one?
Yes,
Is that, maybe bring some markers and we'll mark right on the map if we want to make changes, but
Right.
that would be the goal, and we'll go from there.
yeah.
Is it okay to vote on that before we have an official town plan?
Well, we can vote on the map all we want, we just can't do
Okay.
anything we can't do an application.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and it's a good idea to vote on it, because then that is checked off, that part is done.
Absolutely.
So then when we have the town plan, then we don't have to go back to that.
All right, okay.
Um,
Anything else on the town plan? Or, excuse me, on the village center? You got a lot of the other stuff done, right? You've taken pictures, you've done the application and that stuff, so we're down to the final points there. All
Yeah.
right, good. Letter B, town plan. The first thing, and I'm gonna kind of turn this over to Chuck to make sure we get this right. I asked Chuck to make sure we got it right. Bill had a concern that our motion was not complete enough because it didn't include the summary report in the motion and some other things, and I asked you to make sure we got the wording right. We're just gonna remake this motion, is that correct, Chuck?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to you then.
All right, so there's a legal distinction. We've approved the report. The report was unchanged. I think we approved it twice. Bill's asking us to approve it one last time,
As
Just
part of
for-
the complete package.
just for the record. So we would amend the motion, which is, so it was on the 31st that we made the motion to approve our town plan. So it would be motion for the planning commission to forward the report and draft 2019-2026 town plan with amendments to the select board. And if you wanted to, you could make that motion just to be super legal about it.
What was wrong with the one we did?
It's the idea that you could have somebody legally challenge the process because you didn't approve the report last meeting. This is only something a lawyer could love, but it doesn't hurt for us to do this.
I mean, that seemed like the shortest distance to get this done and put it behind us. Just make this motion and we'll check it off and move on, so.
Now, just one question that makes sense to me, that it's probably a good idea to do that, but did you amend the report a little bit to include a comment that that the plan now includes some small corrections that were made after the hearing?
That report was big picture, like no land use changes, no.
But that's just
Yeah.
the one page, I know.
That's right. So
Yeah.
there was no, like, we made additional grammatical corrections. That, it did not pertain to that's for John Q. taxpayer to say, in my, is my property tax is gonna be affected? Is my land use, development potential gonna be affected? This is much bigger picture, the goal of that. It wasn't talking about any language changes after the hearing.
None of the content of the report changed because of any edits we made to the plan.
Precisely.
Right, I thought that there was a conversation though.
And when you made that comment, I seem to kind of recall that, but that wasn't the intent of the report.
Because technically we made some changes after the hearing, but they were just technical changes.
Correct.
And the purpose of that report is really big picture.
Yeah,
This is what this amended plan from, 5 years ago, these are the changes.
so it doesn't have to have any kind of a reference to the corrections or changes made after the hearing, no. Okay, all right.
So, I think the legislative intent, if we look at this historically, I don't need to have to read a 200-page plan. I need you to tell me, Planning Commission, what changes you've done that may have impacts to me.
Yeah,
In a
Executive
report.
summary.
That's precisely.
so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, motion for the Planning Commission to forward the town plan report and draft 2019-2026 town plan with amendments to the select board.
Somebody
Why
says
does it have to
So-
say draft? I'm sorry, I just want to nitpick a little because I'm worried about the legal
No,
stuff here.
absolutely, let's do it right.
So A, why does it have to say draft as opposed to final report?
We're not finalizing anything, only the select board can.
Well, we
finalize.
are from our end. I
Yeah.
understand from their end, they can do whatever they want. And so that was my first question, why does it have to say draft? And B, specifically, because I don't remember reading that in the law. And I didn't bring my computer today with the law up there, but that's not what I remember reading. And B, if we approve it and it says we're forwarded to the select board, does that limit the rest of the town from being able to decide they want to vote on it individually as opposed to having the select board vote on it next?
Two separate subjects.
They are. But they're very important ones both, because there are many people who are concerned that the town plan will be changed after we spent so much time on it by a few individuals, and they don't want to see that happen. So if it says the language that you just proposed,
We'd say
does that?
final draft.
Or just leave the word draft out.
Yes, that's my first one.
Doesn't matter.
I think we approved it, it's not a draft any longer, it's done, and we did our work.
But as a document, it's still only a draft,
And I don't think it says that in the
until it's
law.
approved by the select board.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did not adopt it, we only
Yeah, we
approved
cannot
it for
adopt it.
moving it forward.
Sure.
The town has not adopted that.
I got that.
So technically, it is a draft, because they have every right to chop that down to.
Or the
anything they want.
town does.
It
This is
does
what-
not
this is-
now.
Yeah,
Well, this is what I'm getting at, is I
Right.
want to be sure we're leaving that door open, not closing that door.
Not close.
Yeah, it's no, I can't see how it's any
I
impact.
think that's sort of,
So I want to be
Sure.
sure that language is in there, then maybe we could amend it, your motion slightly to say to the select board and/or the town for its approval, so that that leaves the door open and doesn't just say, oh, this is the only mechanism by which we have approved for this to
Well, I
go
don't think we have the
forward.
right to say the town, because the town doesn't have the right to vote on this.
It does.
The
That's
town
not true.
has to hold a town meeting to decide that it does.
There's a whole
first.
process
Sure,
before they
sure,
get
sure,
that
yeah, it
vote.
still can, I just want to make
But
sure.
I mean, right now, they do
Yeah.
not have that
Yeah.
right. they
Well,
can
they
get
have
the
the,
right.
yes, they have the right, they just haven't decided to exercise it.
Yeah, well, the law says the legislative body approves, which is the select board.
Right,
But then there is the option
yes.
that the law provides, that the townspeople can petition a special meeting in which they may or may not approve an approval process by Australian ballot.
Yes. So I
But
just
the,
don't
but the
wanna
law
close it.
says the legislative body approves.
Right,
So as far as we're concerned right now, we're forwarding a draft
Yeah.
to the select board.
Yeah,
So leave the language out, you can say draft, you can say proposed, you can.
Read it again, please.
Motion for the planning commission to forward the town plan report and draft or proposed 2019, 2026 town plan with amendments to the select board.
well, Valerie, would it be then better from your point of view if there were a couple of words added, like the draft as finalized by the planning commission?
sure, that would be better, I think. It just sounds like otherwise it's incomplete and we did not actually think it was final.
That,
but I
oh, by the
think
way,
we
here's
do.
a draft, but we're not done yet.
Yes, I want
Yeah, I
to be
can
really
see, yeah.
clear. We
Yeah.
spent, as you know, years.
I would support that terminology.
The draft
It
as
is a draft,
finalized by
but,
the
yeah.
planning commission.
In
I
fact,
think
you don't
that
need
makes
to do
sense.
amendments anymore.
Just simply as the town plan as proposed, the town plan as proposed by the planning commission.
Let's see what Chuck comes up with here.
Okay. These things around here in the draft. All right, motion for the planning commission to forward the town plan report and the draft 2019, 2026 town plan as finalized by the planning commission to the select board. I can probably clean that up a little bit more. There's too many
You
Brings
the
us up.
finalized in the first part where you said town plan there, I think that will work.
before the finalized.
Yeah, then you don't have to have that other second part.
Yeah, that's right, there's too many little independent clauses here. Motion for the planning commission to forward the finalized town plan report and 2019, 2026 town plan to the select board.
Valerie just made that motion.
I guess so. I
What-
still think to the select, actually, my motion, so you guys can overrule it, it's fine, I won't be offended, but my motion is to the select board and/or town for approval, because I just want to make it clear that that's a possibility, and not that this is the only way that it can be approved. And then you guys can not vote, not second it, not vote on it, or move it, but that's what I'm gonna move.
So does Valerie motion to the select board and/or the town
Yes.
voters?
I'm personally not comfortable with that piece.
I'm not comfortable with that either, because it is not up to the planning commission
Yeah.
to make that determination. And the possibility for the townspeople to petition the vote that's allowed by law. Whether this says something about it or not doesn't make any difference. It's what the law says. So,
Up to you guys, I'm just making my motion and you can overrule it, it's fine, or amend it, or whatever.
oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, where was it?
On your dining room table.
Oh,
Hey, you were right, it was gonna take 20
Right at.
minutes. Exactly.
maybe we could go back to maybe in a minute.
You missed the snack time.
Here, have one of these as a reward.
One time you bring me.
We ate them all, Sam.
Well, to do things properly, there is a motion on the floor. We need a second to move forward.
Right, if
Is anybody
anybody seconds it, you can make your
Nobody
own.
is second. If nobody seconds it, we'd have to take another motion.
Right,
Motion fails, and then you make a motion which would logically mean that you've omitted the town voters piece. So the motion as amended would be motion for the planning commission to forward the finalized town plan report and the 2019, 2026 town plan to the select board.
Oops. That's,
I'm saying this too many times, so I'm starting to,
Yeah,
you know.
this did not sound right to my ear now, the way I heard it. I think I heard finalized report.
Yeah.
I think the word finalized was supposed to go with the town plan
Okay,
and not with the report.
well, we finalized both, but.
Yeah, but the point was that the draft, the town plan draft that's the thing that we finalized.
Good point. Motion for the planning commission to forward the town plan report and the finalized 2019-2026 town plan to the select board.
Was the word draft in there?
No.
No, it was not. I personally could go with it, but I would rather see town plan draft at the end of that.
So is that the motion?
The town
No.
plan
My
draft.
Motion
motion
failed.
failed.
Okay.
Let's see it. Anybody else want to see it?
Need to see it?
Sure, Cookie,
Yeah,
sure.
so now this, so this does not have the word draft.
You want to put it in?
Well, you can make the motion anything you want. If you want to say that, but put the word draft in, go ahead.
Well, how about going back to the way it was before?
Yeah, I like it the way it was before.
Somebody needs to make a motion, and then we'll go to the next step.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
And then let me grab the old motion. This is why it's important not to have too many lawyers involved. Okay,
Well, thank God we don't have any here.
motion for the planning commission to forward the town plan report and finalized draft 2019-2026.
And the draft 2019 to 2026 town plan as finalized by the planning commission.
I like that better.
The town plan draft is finalized by the planning commission, is kind of what you're saying. Now let's see what Chuck actually got.
We're saying planning commission too many times here, but motion for the planning commission to forward the town plan report and draft 2019-2026 town plan as finalized by the planning commission.
No, just motion to forward, and get rid of the first planning commission.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Word diet. Love it. Motion to forward the town plan report and draft 2019-2026 town plan as finalized by the planning commission
To the select board.
to the select board. Got it.
Eric just gave a thumbs up. Thanks for getting there.
Okay, Eric, says-
I'll make the motion.
thank you, Eric.
I thought I made the motion already.
Yep,
Okay.
that was her motion.
Now,
Yeah, I was attempting to make that motion.
That's a tough motion.
But we got it this time.
That should make lawyers around everywhere happy.
For curiosity, does this change any of the select board's timeline? Or did the other time we turned in officially start their clock?
Yeah, I mean, my read of this would be is it's just a clarifying motion, that you're not restarting the clock.
That's their call anyways, not
That's right,
ours.
and they have so much time anyway, why would you want to?
But here's the question. We had discussed this once before, but I think the understanding was that the clock started from the hearing date, which was January 15th, and not from any other date after that.
There was some email traffic to that effect, yes.
Yeah, and is that still the case?
I don't know why it would change.
Right, so their 30 to 120 day clock started on January 15th.
We have a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved, excellent. The next thing I've got down here is just next steps. What are the next steps for us in the town plan? The ball is completely in the select board court. Chuck, anybody else? What do we do next or anything, or just wait and see?
Just wait and see.
Okay.
For me, the important part is if the select board takes it, as, you know, there's really a clear priority in making sure there's a separation and authority between the commission and the select board. You may participate in the select board proceedings insofar as you identify yourself as a citizen of Grafton, the town of Grafton, but not represent any commission interest at this point. You know, I don't like trying to split hairs with legal language, but that much I know about the law is really hoping that there's a real separation. We did our job, we did it well, now it's for the legislative body to deal with it. So any advocacy at our level at this point is strictly as citizens.
So when the select board holds its hearing, and any of us wish to speak, we speak just representing ourselves as a citizen.
Yeah, I mean, I can see as a chair or the vice chair, you can say, point of clarification, this was the intent of the commission.
But even as chair, I cannot express the opinion of the board unless you give me that specific opinion to express at that meeting. Otherwise, it's me, Dave Bolton.
That's right, as an advocate,
Right.
you know, yes, saying we need to keep this section in because of this. That's no longer your role. It could be your role as a citizen, but as a commission, you may be there to provide clarification on why things were done a certain way, but that's it.
So then, if and when the select board proposes changes, which they would have to publish 15 days prior to their hearing, they send them, they publish them at the usual places. We don't meet and discuss those as a planning commission, but then they have their hearing. After that, then those changes do have to come to us, because then we have to check them for technicality.
At which point you can do an addendum to your report saying, you know, we concur with these changes, we do not. You know, you may provide some clarifying language in addition to checking, you know, certain basic factual, you know, issues.
But if we disapprove of the changes, that would not stop the process. We only have the right to comment.
We have no right to.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, just so we're all clear on that piece.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's-
So, and is it then clear what are the types of changes that are just technical? Well, no, wait, yeah, no, of course, yeah, we have no more role as far as content, yeah. So our role would then be just to say, what you're proposing here is in conflict with Chapter 7.
Just in an advisory capacity.
Yes. You know,
And-
we could duly advise the select board that any changes to the energy chapter may, you know, we have the Windham Regional Commission's checklist, we may lose our enhanced energy chapter designation, that kind of thing. You're just giving them information to make wise decisions.
And then they have to hold another hearing, at which time they can then approve the plan,
At the hearing.
at the hearing.
Approve, adopt.
Adopt,
Okay.
Yes,
adopt,
I get your meaning.
yeah. But if they propose any more changes,
Cycle.
then it has to come back to us again for the
Particularly a
same.
certain threshold, yeah, change, yeah. Substantive changes, yeah.
Substantive.
And
Technical?
they, you know,
Commas, period, that kind of thing, no.
some technical changes, the select board will look to the planning commission for direction and guidance. But that's really the purview of the, you know, that.
But if it changes the meaning anywhere, then
You're gonna wanna remand it back to the planning commission.
I think the state statutes make a reference to the planning goals in 4302. If the select board makes changes that don't address those properly, then we are encouraged to comment on them. I mean, it's not like we can veto them, but I believe if you look in 4302, it talks about that as being something that has to be covered in any kind of amendment process that they might have.
That's a great way of saying it, yeah. And that's what I was trying to say with the energy chapter, you know, you just,
Yeah.
please note that you're going to lose this status if we don't, you know, it's your prerogative, but just know.
Those comments go in their minutes and they make their decision and we go forward from there. All right. Anything else with the town plan? If not, I'm gonna move on to, I've got two things that we've talked about that I've set as goals for this year is to update subdivision and the flood zoning regs. I've got two documents, and honestly, I was thinking about it today, I don't know. Did Bill Kern send these out to everybody or just me? Okay. I will send them out. What I've got, and I'll be brief about it, the flood hazard has a lot of very thick paragraphs that take me half an hour a piece to read and figure out what they're saying. And then on top of that, anywhere there is red, Bill has gone through the state statutes, new rules, etc., and given his perception of what needs to be changed. And he writes as thick as the original document, by God. So this one's going to take some work for us to do it. The subdivision ones, which when I got it, I was overwhelmed. But as I've gone through it all, every change that he has made throughout this entire document is simply changing planning commission to DRB. That there's no other change in this document he's made, and I don't know enough about the law to say whether we've got to make more than that, but I do have a lot of faith in Bill and what he does. The only note I made in this document, but we had a discussion about it earlier today, is there's a huge section that talks about the AO, the administrative officer, nothing about an assistant AO, and if we were to approve that, I'd say we probably should put something in there for that, but at this point, the answer is no. I sent an email to Chuck saying I believe in low-hanging fruit. I'm wondering, what is the process, Chuck, is the first question, to make changes? Is this just the planning commission, we do it, a vote tonight and we move forward, or is there hearings, is the select board got to approve it? This is the first document that I'd like to tackle, because in my opinion, it's pretty straightforward.
The subdivision?
Yes.
Yeah, we'd have a hearing just like anything else, and it would be very comparable, not exactly, but comparable enough for all of us to think about it as just like adopting the town plan.
So even if it's just changing throughout it, it says the planning commission and Bill's changed it to the DRB throughout it. We still need a hearing even though those changes are made. Okay.
Is it possible, though, that there are some more substantial changes that are necessary?
I don't know.
I'm thinking of such things, for instance, as Act 171. I remember as we were talking about Act 171, which has to do with the forest fragmentation and habitat connectivity, that we should take note of that and review our subdivision regs and make some appropriate modifications.
Well, that's the thing, you open up the hood on these regulations and you say, we're so well versed in the town plan right now, conformance with the town plan is going to be absolutely critical. And as we read these subdivision regs, what do we feel, needs to be amended based on state law changes or compatibility with the town plan?
So how do we get educated on that stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
And there could be a whole bunch of other things that we're just not thinking of right now, maybe even energy related. Is this maybe something that we need to talk to WRC about as a major planning revision that we might need help?
This would be subdivision regulations. You do see that as municipal planning grant projects, a revision and update of the subdivision. Windham Regional is extraordinary at this. This is their main wheelhouse, when you look at their core competencies. And then myself as well, to look at those subdivision regs and say, what are the real important sections to update?
So should I contact, who would be the contact, Chris or John or somebody else down there?
John, although they've just reshuffled, they hired a new senior planner. John is now the assistant director. Yeah, Susan McMahon left. So I'm not sure at this point if it would have been John, but I mean, I would start with John, and he says,
John's real good about turning us in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I should email John a copy of these. Should I set up a meeting with him or just say, hey, what's the process?
Why don't you just start with asking him that question?
Can you review them and give us some feedback?
Send them to him and say.
I found a lot of value when you and I went down there together.
And I have no problem.
And just had a download with him. We come back to the group. I do prefer that this group, at least on your own, think about it prior to listening to John. Because sometimes you hear from a professional planner, myself or John, you may be primed to just go with what you heard. And that's the priority right now is you all, especially as the town plan is now done. I know that could be a changing target depending on some of the changes that could be conceived, but generally speaking, let's assume that particularly as it applies to subdivision, what we see today in our plan is probably going to be there tomorrow. So they'll look it over.
Of the two documents, is there any reason, I don't see us tackling both at the same time, you got to choose one or the other. Subdivision is good as either, is there a reason to tackle the other one over this one first?
My opinion is that the subdivision is the lesser of the fundable projects. Eric, I want you to chime in on this. I believe if we said we're looking at a municipal planning grant for the update of our flood zoning bylaws, that is a clear state priority, and we're most likely to receive funding for something, a project of that
But
magnitude.
not until the town plan is adopted.
Correct.
Because we're not eligible for any municipal planning grants until we have a town plan adopted.
We're busy with subdivision, and we have the time, and we can take advantage of that time by saying this fall, submit for a municipal planning grant to update our flood zoning regs.
How much? $100? $10,000? What do you?
5 to 7, and it would be Windham in their time.
And that's really where the money would go, is them digging through letter by letter and doing the work for us.
Alyssa Sabeto, I might be mispronouncing her last name, is that it? Extraordinary. And it's her day-to-day. So I'm a generalist, and I find myself listening to her a lot about some of the stuff, but to have somebody like that in our backyard is unusual. So that's where I would take it.
So if I understood you correctly, we, without the WRC, should move forward with the subdivision section, I mean, without a municipal planning grant, I guess.
That's probably the lesser, fundable projects.
All right, but send that out to John, and I'll send the same copy to all of you guys. And we can start dealing with this without a grant, but this one is so heavy that we'll need a grant and need their expertise to really dig into this one.
It's subdivision there's a lot of discretion from the DRB in subdivision. I know it looks like they're hard, fast rules, but when you start applying those rules to a subdivision, there is some discretion there. The flood zoning, there's less discretion, and if we get some of the flood zoning wrong, or we don't have the technical expertise, those impacts are real to people and will have consequence. So that's the thing we really want the professional expertise on, whereas the subdivision, I'm not saying that we can treat that casually, I don't want to have that misinterpreted, but that's an area that we can afford to move as just our group. And if I may add a step here, we'd have commissioners look it over, you and I would meet with John, get a download from him, report back to the group, and then set up for a John presentation. So
Have John come here.
yes, and eventually, but that we would meet John first and say, what do you think from your point of view these regs? Where do we need to tighten it up?
Open a small can of worms. Should I contact the select board and let them know that this is kind of our plan, and if they've got any thoughts or inputs, we would like them up front, or should I just not bother doing that?
I think this would fall under your quarterly, or I think you do it every other month, you give them an
It's
update.
a courtesy update,
This is where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
and if they have something to say,
All right. And Bill's well aware of it, because he wouldn't have sent me that document with those corrections without it, so. He's put some time into these, obviously, already. He's put some real thought into both of them, so.
In terms of projects, I don't want you to forget what I thought was a great idea that you've been talking about, which is a community survey. I think there's a priority there. I almost even think that may preempt subdivision or flood zoning, or at least go along with the subdivision.
I was not aware, and I think Eric, you mentioned, was a survey done in the community recently? How long ago? And
Well, there have been two in the past, and the most recent one was held in the school gymnasium. And that was probably, I want to say 5 to 6 years ago. And then we had one about 10 years ago that was in the homestead. That one was very well organized. I thought it was done, facilitated by the WRC. And
so you're talking more of like a focus group kind of approach, not a send out a paper survey or something like that, or?
yeah, it was attended by anybody in the community that wanted to come in, and it was basically, what do you want to see in the future of Grafton? And it was allowed people to present ideas that were listed on a flip chart and vote on them eventually. You were given little stickers to go up and, given an allocation of maybe 5 or 6 stickers to paste on various
You put
ideas.
3 on 1 if you really liked it, or spread it out.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
that was discussed.
There was a little controversy because it was on a weekday during the workday, and so it wasn't, broad cross-section of input as there could have been, so that's just something to take into consideration for the next
But
one.
it was well attended.
It was, yes, but maybe we didn't have the diversity.
Well, if I'm getting
cross-section
hold of the WRC anyways,
populations.
I've asked them about it, and said they've got kind of a bank of surveys and approaches to this kind of thing, and I'll see what they think about it, and I'll report back.
John is probably the only one left that participated in that. Susan was there.
Okay.
The survey we did in Rockingham recently got 10% of our population. The feedback was extraordinary. And the tools that we have available to us today are so different than even 10 years ago. So it runs off of the Survey Monkey platform. The average citizen doesn't even know. They just log on. We had a little UPC code that you could just scan, and it took over your phone, and you just answered the questions. And we got a lot of feedback, especially from people who are very unlikely to attend meetings. And that's something I'd like you to consider.
I guess what I'd like to do is collect a lot of ideas and then share them, and then we can have a discussion. Right now, it's a lot of this nebulous kind of theoretical stuff. I'll get hold of WRC. You got something that Rockingham has done?
Yeah, I present the report, our findings, and give you a sense of methodology.
Yeah, I'm curious what kinds of questions and how you did it. And
We would definitely want to look back 10 years ago and see what those questions were asked, and in fact, probably bring those questions forward, even though they were presented in a meeting format. If we were looking at a survey, let's see what the last 10 years.
are they available?
I don't know where they'd be in our archives. They might be up in the upstairs at Town Hall. Or WRC may still have
WRC would
something.
be the best bet.
If they digitized it and stuck it in a folder, that'd be ideal. But
We're seeing John for the subdivision.
I got a list of things, and I'll ask them about that as well.
So I'm not sure who it was WRC that facilitated. I'm not sure there was a designated board or person in the town.
Well, it was coordinated by the planning commission.
are you talking about the one that was the SWAT meeting? That was
That was
5 or
5
6
years
years ago?
ago.
Or the one,
I think
Previous to
the
that.
SWAT meeting was in the school.
Correct.
The previous one is what we're talking about
In the
now,
homestead,
in the
yeah.
homestead.
Okay. Well, let's get some stuff together and see what is the best way to get some information from the community, and we'll go from there.
Your comment was a powerful one, just, decision-making has been somewhat, restricted to people who can attend the meetings, who can, put the time and effort into it. Let's think broader and say, what are the average person, what are their thoughts, what are their hopes for this community.
Okay. Anything else under these two items? If not, I'll move on.
Yeah. Do we want to go back to the village center designation
Sure.
for a minute?
Yeah.
Now that Sam was good enough to
Thank you, Sam.
get my file. Sorry about that. So, so here is the latest map.
Let's see.
Okay. So this is the latest map that Jeff produced,
Oh,
based on our,
it's obvious
Wish
right
list.
away that
Yeah, the spider has some legs.
yeah.
I mean, just looking at the map, you know, you can squint a little bit and you say, this is not a village center. This is a,
So where do you think the line will be as you move back from here? You come back and we'll be all the way back into here somewhere, or can we, up around the corner and get Jones' house, or
well,
how far?
probably here, because this is an interruption here, so this
It
is
is,
no
right.
longer the cluster village
Mhm.
when you go,
Right there at the bend then?
That's logical.
yeah. And here, let me see, where's Jeff's
You want
comments?
to show it to the camera real quick?
Well, it kind of looks like a dragon.
We'll go
This is the tail, this is the
Yeah.
head.
The Grafton Dragon, yeah, I'm sure it'll be very popular.
Buy into that.
Yeah, so he says, while expanding the center up Chester Road and down to the Kidder Bridge could be justified, the cheese factory and Wilson and Lawrence seem a bit of a stretch. What? Yeah.
Oopsie.
Yeah, I guess I would be willing to fight a little bit to get up a Chester Road a little bit, but also Kidder Hill is one that I'd really fight for 2 reasons. Number
Kidder
one.
Bridge?
Bridge, yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
It is part of the walking tour of Grafton. When people come,
Yeah.
they walk through that bridge.
Yeah, it is.
And again, if there's money available through this village center, that bridge is something that's gonna be expensive some days.
Mm. So, yeah, so he says, the area in between those locations and the center of the village don't have uninterrupted development densities, nor are they compact, in my opinion.
And that's the definitions
Yeah.
that they use. Okay.
And then he included all the definitions and the criteria. Large parcels of undeveloped land cannot be included, and it should be the traditional historic center of socioeconomic activity, civic and commercial core area of the village, which is often smaller than the village or municipal boundary. Development density should be uninterrupted, although there may be some public space like a park or village green within the designated village center.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Pedestrian-oriented rather than auto-oriented, with building facades generally set close to the street with sidewalks. Commercial activity should not be on the outskirts.
That's where a lot of ours are.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
there's no sidewalks.
I mean, the topography dictates
Yeah.
such too.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's where we stand, so.
Can I show this to the camera just?
As I set a goal that we vote on this at the next meeting, I personally wouldn't be
Yeah.
opposed to chopping the tail and the
Yeah.
head off and
yeah.
let the
Yeah.
dragon go from there, so.
Let me read again his comment that
Yep.
came with the map. He says, I agree the boundary is large. My recommendation is to have a discussion with Richard Omori before doing a full submission. While the downtown board does occasionally scale things back, my concern would be that their recommended reduction would be more than a simple scaling back, and that might complicate and delay the process.
And that
In
would-
other words, don't send an application that's totally out of whack. Of
Right,
course, then they might just not even want to look at it.
right.
That would be the risk.
Well, bring the maps at the next meeting. Let's
Yeah.
bring a pen and we'll mark on it and we'll send you down and we'll go from there. So,
Okay.
all right. Anything else before we move back to the bottom of the agenda? New business, I got whose term is up. I just went and looked. Lisa, your term is up. I didn't
Yes.
realize that. Somebody said you don't plan on submitting your name for another term, or are you?
Have I been asked?
I'm asking, if you were asked, would you say yes? Is what I'm asking.
now.
Why don't we, could we do this? Could we review everyone's terms? I think that would be appropriate.
I've got them here. Had them here. There we go. Lisa Kissel, 2019. 2021 is Dave Culver, Kim, and Eric. Nobody is up a year from now. It's interesting. 2022 is Valerie, Matt, and Chris.
Doesn't work right, because we're a year in, and 2 years from now is 21,
With 3
right? And there's
three-year
3-year
and 2
terms,
years.
right? Aren't we 3-year terms?
No,
They're
they're
staggered.
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 Yes, I
Staggered.
know, we were staggered, but I'm just saying ours, Matt's and mine, when I say ours, I believe we're the same year, aren't we?
Mhm.
And we were just re-upped last year, so if they're 3-year terms, we should be up in 21. So I don't understand that, but either way, I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody when I say we would really appreciate your expertise and devotion if you were willing to re-up. Is there any way you would consider that? Don't be looking at him, ignore him.
No, I'm not needing to look at him.
Uh-huh, and,
Mm. No, I've served 5 years, and with due respect to those who have served a lot longer, I do believe that it's a good idea for the town to have turnover and move on to new people.
well, in that
So-
case, I will just say that A, we have a card for you to say thank you, and B, we have
Thank
a
you.
present for you to say thank you, because I wanted to acknowledge all your hard work and all this. And I will just point out that these are all able to be replanted in your garden, and I'll take the plastic containers back when you're done.
Well,
I
thank you
said they
very
would take
much.
them back.
Thank
And I would
you,
hug you
Barbara.
now, you have a cold, I'm like imaginary
Yeah.
hug, sorry. I just got over being sick.
Appreciate it.
But
Thank you.
imaginary hug.
Thank you very much. Thank you, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your kind words.
Well, and there are other kind words from other people in there. Feel free to chime in, you like other.
I sure learned a lot from you. Great having you on the board. So, the information I just read that you wrote down was from this year's published town report that we're going to look at in March. I am now looking at last year's town report, and they don't jive. It's got Valerie at 2018, so you were up last year.
Yes, and so I got reappointed. That's what I'm saying. So
That's
3 years gets me to
exactly.
21.
That's why I think there's a problem, because then it's
Yes.
got Matt at 2018, and Eric at 2018, and Chris at 2018. And then it's got
Well, no,
me.
I know, but we didn't, but 4 of us didn't all,
Okay.
yeah.
And then it's got me and Lisa and Kim ending at 2019. This is last year's report. So we gotta,
That's what I was talking about.
that's what I saw when I thought I was up this year along with Kim. So who's in charge of the records to make sure it's right? Is that town clerk and Kim? Or somebody else? Select board?
It, in the past has been Kim, or that position. Like when it was the library, that was the person who was the person of record. But it's been confused, and many other boards, this is not the only one over the years, so, but we're on the 21.
Yeah, actually, in my observation, the town report has often been incorrect
Yes.
about such
Yes.
things.
All right, I'm gonna contact Kim and show her both of these
Yeah.
and ask for some clarification.
Yeah.
Your name is on both the last year's and
Yeah.
this year's,
My-
so.
Yeah, we're quite clear on that, yeah.
Okay. And we'll get more clarification. I'll send an email out if I get more information on that. I don't know what that is about. All right. Other, new business? That.
That was it.
I want to bring up just one, and anybody want to chime in? I don't know much more about this, but there was more kerfluffle with the Rex solar array again, correct? You got an email, I got an email, we got emails
That's right.
down in Cambridgeport. I don't know if it's been resolved. I don't know if Rex went to the meeting Tuesday. He did. Has it been resolved?
Yes.
Okay, it's really, he contacted me and said, Planning Commission, what can you do? My response was, since there's a DRB, this is out of our hands and we really don't have any say in it at all. I got confirmation.
Not even the DRB.
Not even really the DRB, but, all right. Bottom line is there was some problems, they are resolved and I just want to make sure you were aware
Whether
of
it
it.
was resolved at Tuesday's night, select board meeting. He needed a letter, and the letter was running, the select board agreed to it.
They did, okay.
That's great. And then everybody agreed to any of the conditions and all that stuff?
What I understand, it's good to go.
Great. Great,
So,
great.
yeah, it's my understanding that the town took back its objections,
Okay,
because the town had written to the PUC, but the town took those back.
all right. I just want to make sure that was cleared up. If there is no other new business, our next meeting is, again, only a week, 2.5 weeks from now, and I'll send out some emails with some homework. The two big things I think are village center designation. Let's really read what those criteria are, so when we have those maps out, we're all on the same page with that. And I will get some information on surveys, and then I'll send out the two documents that Bill has sent me with his edits, or his proposed edits, I apologize, so we can start reading through that. All right? Motion to adjourn?
What's your next date?
I'm sorry, it is March 12th.
Yep.
And legally, technically, remind me, but would that also be a reorganizational meeting, because it's the first meeting after town?
If they appoint somebody, if they don't
If they
appoint
appoint
somebody, I think we're just should muddle on until they appoint somebody.
Okay. Once somebody's appointed, then we go through a formal reorganizational. I mean, it should be done every year. I know other boards do that.
Yes.
Yeah, should be done every year, yeah.
And the logical time would be March, or is it?
After
Yes.
town meeting, yeah.
Right.
Town meeting.
All right.
I figured out, yes, you're correct, the one set of minutes isn't posted. There was the date next to the minutes, the 15th was posted twice. So we have, okay. So we might have just posted something twice as opposed to posting to two different dates. Small edit.
Did we get a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We did.
Second.
So moved. We are adjourned until the 12th. Thank you very much, folks.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
And you.